Hello everybody, hope you're doing well. Welcome to what is going to be a very quick video. Now I thought to myself, like, should I do a full breakdown of everything about Act 8.1 and all the paths and all the bosses with it? And I've already done that. Like, there's a spreadsheet, by the way. Like, the main thing I want to point out with this video is there is a spreadsheet. So following on from a spreadsheet that I started working on, I've made a lot of changes. I worked on this for the best part of today, but I kind of feel like if you want to go and check out like all these different path counters, I'm not going to go through the full extent of an exploration guide on every single path. I might note something in this video that I kind of thought was quite cool, but if you want to go and check it out, link in the description. There's tabs along the bottom that have different things like damage over time immunities and auto block miss evade champions. But it's got an 8.1.1, 8.1.2, 8.1.3, 4, 5, 6. All up to date with stuff. Yeah, that's kind of like the real thing to point out with this video. Yeah, I'm going to mention some stuff when it comes to the bosses and a little bit of breakdown, but kind of talking about them when it comes to this. But I will be talking about 8.1.6. Also, some really helpful places to go for guides, as well as like just some top tips that I have. It's like a little paragraph of how to deal with Cytalis. But yeah, for this video, I kind of felt like, look, let's just not kind of waffle on and break everything down, because there's not really much point to it. There's other people that have done that already. It's already out in the domain, but this is just a spreadsheet if you want to go and check it out. So there's tons of paths on offer for 8.1.1, whether or not it is doing the weapon paths, which you got like a really easy path with just doing heavy attacks, and you go into the disarm, which allows you to do a lot of damage with heavy attacks. So there's going to be some really fun champion options like Apocalypse Corvus, Mr. Fantastic Archangel. The list goes on. That's kind of one of my favorite paths from there. From a boss perspective, these are a bit of an iffy ones when it comes to counters as to like what you feel is best for this, especially going up against the likes of Hood, which has Caltrops. So bleed immune champions are options for this. Whether or not you go with Nimrod, Apocalypse, Corvus, Warlock, you know, the list goes on. That again is down to a personal preference. Keep the champion to an SP1, easy peasy. The easy champion arguably is Red Skull, and whether or not you want to do poison vulnerability. Lots of champions use against this. Maybe you want to do SP1 or SP3 rotation for Magneto. Iffy, but I do like using Medusa for this. You've just got to like pair up and watch up how that debuff synthesis works to go parry, and also kind of mediums that plays into that. But to be honest, you could go Nick Fury, or you could keep it very easy, very simple by going with champions that do poison damage right off the bat. Immortal Abomination, maybe. Again, down to personal preference and personal play style. Strife, on the other hand, we've got Biotic, Adaption, Spikes. You've got Incinerate Vulnerability and Scared Stiff. Would say watch out for that Rooted every 10 seconds. But just use Incinerate champions really for this, because it's Incinerate vulnerability. So your Human Torches, Dominoes, Red Hulk, Sunspot, Magneto's a bit of an iffy one, Elsa Bloodstone, Hyperion SP1 rotations. Yes, that's absolutely delightful. So that's 8.1.1. Moving very swiftly to 8.2.2. As I said, everything information-wise is in the spreadsheet below if you do want to go and check it out. I am kind of hurrying through this. As I said, this is kind of like a video just to talk about some things with the bosses, and as well, just checking out the spreadsheet, because at the end of the day, people respond better to kind of like reading stuff. I don't do fancy images. Maybe in the future I'll do infographics, but that's something that I just do not have the time for at the moment. But there may be something in the future. We'll have to see. She-Hulk wise, you can either rotate around champions that have the slow debuff. You can go passive stun with White Magneto. You can have Strife, Falcon, Mole Man, Elsa Bloodstone. There's a ton for that one. Black Panther, Civil War. Depends how you want to deal with this one. Auto blocks could be the way to go with it. Champions with armor up could be helpful to kind of like trigger off some stuff with True Strike. Again, down to personal preference with how you take that on. There's a ton of options for that one. War Machine could be one of the easiest ones. Villain champions are going to be the key one here when it comes to scoundrels. Whether or not you go Immortal Abomination, Venom, Venompool, Kingpin, Null, Doctor Doom, Nimrod, Magneto, King Groot. I think I personally like King Groot, but I again, personal preferences. You do you at the end of the day. 8.1.3 we've got to move on to right now. We're halfway through with this, but yeah, 8.1.3 when you've got yourself Diablo as Diablo, Psycho Man, and Mr. Sinister. This is when things get a little bit more fun, I think, for this one, and that's you know, champions that deal with heal block or deal with that what is it called? That's Arc Overload and Vigorous Assault. If the champion gets a regen buff, they go unblockable. Not great. Suppress it. Probably the best way to go. I've used Dr. Doom on this one. Nullify approach. There are some other options. Black Widow, Clairvoyant. Nullify approach. Nullify that. It's all good. Tech champions. Warlock. Penny Parker. Guardian. Infamous Iron Man. Any tech champion could be great against this. Then we're moving on to Diablo. And Diablo is all about the shock vulnerability. So shock vulnerability champions could be key here. And something to mention is that knocking down Diablo with a special switches from him having unblockable to unstoppable. So you may want to do like a parry heavy to switch from that unblockable to the unstoppable to unblockable. It's just an easy way of dealing with it. But again, it's down to personal preference how you want to deal with it. Whether or not you go down the route of Black Widow Deadly Origin for the shock vulnerability, or you go somewhere like left wing like Sentinel. Like again, it's down to personal preference as to how you deal with that. And Psycho Man. For me personally, this champion had auto block, and I found that one of the best ways to deal with this one, as it says right there, striking into the defender's block or auto block. This causes the attacker to be inflicted with a concussion. Auto block chance is up. Yeah. Any case, champions to use against this one. I decided like Magneto was good. Angela felt like it was better. Jess felt like it was a bit better. Hercules SP1 rotation, maybe, possibly, don't know. Falcon, Longshot, Cosmic Ghost Rider, again, down to personal preference of how you want to deal with this, interact with it, and also build that ability to counteract the auto block. Okay, and now we go on to 8.1.4. I am maybe going a bit fast, but as I said, like, this is why I've kind of spent the time to write this up. So I wanted to make this as quick as possible to go, oh, Rich did a video about this. Did he break stuff down excessively? No. Did he write it down? Yes. Because, as I said, like you can go, MCOC Noob's done fantastic content on this, which I've put in the guide links to his work, as well as Simula's takedown of Citalis, which I think is the best out there in the community to go and see. But I wanted to at least kind of like finish up on these and kind of like do the job of creating videos for this. But I thought let's just quickly kind of talk about the bosses. It is the three musketeers, as it were, in 8.1.4, and Proxima, I would say for this one. Magneto, because she's a hashtag metal. Dr. Doom is good against this. White Magneto, Black Widow Clairvoyant. You could go down the cold snap immunity kind of way, but it's a bit of an iffy one to kind of go down that way. Colossus, Warlock, Human Torch. Human Torch actually might be really good for that one. Sabretooth, Corvus Glaive, Medusa for armor breaking. There's certain ways you can go about this. It's just going to be down to a personal preference with this one. Did I say incinerate immunity for Human Torch? I think like doesn't really apply for this situation. But you can kind of like play about with how you want to deal with this one, whether it's the armor break route, it's the cold snap interaction route, or the better route, which is the Black Widow, Clairvoyant, Wags, Dr. Doom, and Magneto route, so to speak. Ebony Maw, do be very careful about this one because there will be very specific counters, and whether or not you're doing the likes of heavy assault and trying to do a lot of damage by that means. Red Guardian, no buffs. Human Torch, slays. Spider-Man 2099, no buffs. Spider-Man 2099 was the GOAT for me on this one. Spot with a synergy, no buffs, could be really good as an option. Spider-Ham, the list goes on with available options if you've got any of those. I don't know if an Archangel Parry Heavy could be quite good, but that's again down to trial and error with that particular one. And the final boss for that one is Corvus, and Corvus is very much a case of, well, he is hashtag metal. And then also you got things like Sorcerer Supreme that could be very good against this. Doctor Doom, Black Widow, Clairvoyant with Human Torch if you time stuff right with the slow buff immunity. There could be something there. But I would say the first ones mentioned, including the likes of Rintrah and certain Mystics, can be very good against this. And She-Hulk if you want to deal with the Footloose counter. On to 8.1.5 as we now wrap up all of this, and it's definitely a lot of fun and getting into the business end of things. So in 8.1.5 you do have Wasp, which people might say that's kind of annoying. There's a call for a cold snap immunity on this one, so whether or not you got yourself a Colossus, whether or not with Cold Shoulder this is, and whether or not you got yourself Warlock or Emma Frost, you can deal with a cold snap. Shang-Chi can deal with the evade system side of things when you're hitting off against Wasp. Magneto is probably one of the best options with Falcon as a secondary option. Hercules, on the other hand, has got Critical Eye, Combo Party, Buff, Synthesis, Cruelty, Precision. Black Widow, Deadly Origin, Falcon, the combinations there, because Black Widow, Deadly Origin will get Precisions. I think Falcon gets that as well with Cruelty, possibly. Anyway, both would work very, very well with or without each other. Scarlet Witch, Black Widow, Clairvoyant, still good. Doctor Doom, one of the best. Any kind of Mystic can deal with this quite nicely. But, there's further information about these particular bosses. And Daredevil. Very fun if you've got yourself a white Magneto. It opens up a lot of champions to be used against this, because a lot of the time the champion will be kind of unable to deal with when he comes out of the particular... It's not Assault, it's the Assault Battery. It's the other one. Power to Cower? Or was it Persistent Pressure? You may want to get yourself, because it's stun immune, but it's not stun... I think it's not stun effect immune, so you can still do the white Magneto kind of usage for passive parry. In any case, Apocalypse and Wagged is one of the best options. You also got Hercules, Storm, but most champs can really do this. Nick Fury, Bishop, you name it, they're all good. So that's that. And then we go on to the final one. As I said, I've been rushing through this, but there is a spreadsheet in order to go and check out. So my main kind of like points when it comes to like Cytalis is that there is the champion in a nutshell. Okay, how do I first of all describe the champion in a nutshell? Well, I've described it as a nutshell like this, which is Cytalis will have phases. Yeah. To defeat Cytalis, you will need to push her to specials to throw traps. Yeah. Once traps are down, you will need to perform heavy attacks or special attacks to push Cytalis into traps. Once the trap locks, which I put wrap there, once the wrap locks, it will stun Cytalis. This is when you do the damage, and then through the phases you'll build passive prowess effects. In later phases, you will need to lose your prowess to finish off Cytalis. And you don't need to worry about that, because as soon as you do certain attacks, they will go. So look out for that one. And there's various different types of nodes on the bosses, which look a little bit like this on the screen right now, where you will have to once you take certain ones down, certain champions will be specific boss counters. So it's like looking at a situation of, and as I've put in here, there's a boss node there. Armor up on you, which is there. Armor up on you boosts special damage, and then there's other things where there's Cytalis gets a pierce buff when you kind of leave that up. You kind of leave that up, but there will be specific boss counters for every path you go up against. To the end, it might be like, okay, well this time I can use Colossus, but the next time I need to use a champion with armor break, and that's very much a situation from looking at path 4. Path 4 is that stun reflect unless you've got an armor break on the enemy, and you'll then look to champions that do armor breaks like King Groot's SP1, Angela with special attacks, Corvus with well-timed block, and also Hercules with Cap Infinity War. So you'll need, and Doctor Doom with Mr. Fantastic, which is one of my favourite ones for this particular one. So that's really the main points with it. There's different paths, and there's different things that are going to be available to kind of go up against when it comes to Cytalis. So you're like, okay, well, I need to plan effectively for this. And that's really it. I don't want to go any further. I wanted to make this as quick a video as possible, and it is going longer than I wanted to. But yeah, full guide and information is a link in the description. As I said, check out MCC Noob's guides and Simula's guide to Cytalis. And that has been Exploration Guide in a nutshell. And yeah, sorry it's not fully broken down, like loads of little things and kind of like going off. But to be honest, It's very easy to follow the process and the guide. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.